And for the first time, there was a new school of thought that was chemically induced that made people question the very society they lived in. By 1960, the president of the United States was only 42 years old. Can you imagine? DMX is older than that. And he was going to usher in a new era of peace. He was going to avoid the Cold War. He was going to end segregation. And they blew his brains out in front of everyone in Dallas. This country was never the same.
Right now, if you had them prepare themselves in whatever way they would have to prepare themselves to come to battle, and I bet what I have, everything I have, that meatloaf.
Are there any good white people in the world?
There may be, but it doesn't matter. And you know why? No matter how good an individual white person may be, they have an obligation to look out for the best interests of the white race.
I seen this dude screaming, crying, saying, "You fuckers did it right now. I don't want to hear nothing from you self-righteous libs, Democrats. We're coming for you." Knowing damn well the person that did it, y'all know what it is. Betty White.
Welcome back to Fame Flux, where the truth behind fame gets exposed. The conversation has intensified around how some supporters of Charlie Kirk are attempting to shift blame onto Black and brown communities, simply because they are not publicly mourning him.
This shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad, it was evil, but what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes.
This reaction follows long-standing controversies, including Kirk's past statements suggesting that Black people were supposedly better off before civil rights because crime rates were lower. The same voices that mocked the deaths of Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, George Floyd, and many other victims of racial violence.
Men, women, and children were killed in violent lynch mobs.
That's your explanation, but
racial terror permeated American culture for hundreds of years.
Black America is worse than it has been.
That affected
are now outraged at the lack of sympathy for Kirk. Prominent figures from the entertainment world have stepped forward, and while some responses have been measured, others have been direct and unapologetic. Several high-profile posts have gone viral, with one in particular drawing so much attention and backlash that it was quickly deleted, showing how polarized and emotional the public reaction has become. Tensions escalated even further when threats began circulating online toward public figures linked to the discussion, despite silence from those same voices about the victims of a Colorado school shooting that occurred only hours after the incident with Charlie Kirk. Amanda Seales publicly emphasized this contrast and stated clearly that she felt no empathy for Kirk, while Dr. Umar Johnson urged caution, advising against celebrating any death. These sharply contrasting reactions highlight not only celebrity influence, but also the deeper political and cultural fault lines dividing the nation.
Worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
The first major celebrity response came from 50 Cent, who shared a controversial screenshot of the shooting with a blunt caption suggesting silence rather than sympathy. The post triggered a wave of outrage from Kirk's supporters, who flooded social media with criticisms and calls for accountability, further inflaming an already volatile public debate.
Clinton in the 1990s, it was all about empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage, but it...
I have watched any number of people of all kinds of stripes, people, theologians, politicians, people who consider themselves activists, all kinds of people on the conservative right talk about empathy, and they talked about empathy as if it was a pariah, empathy as if it was a moral failing, and they referred to empathy as a weakness. And it's interesting that they would call themselves Christian and be anti-empathy, because that is a core tenet of Christianity. So that is being a Christian without the empathy is like being a sushi chef without the fish. But empathy is apparently a weakness to a lot of people, and you never know. But I have always believed and hold this now, that empathy is quintessentially human. human. It is the core of humanity. It certainly is the core of Christianity, if you call yourself Christ-like. But how is it that you can despise empathy, that you think it is a weakness, that you think that people are susceptible to it, like it's the cold or the flu, and that you despise empathy, but would like it when someone who you love is hurt or killed? We can either decide to be human and empathic, whether we relate to, like, or understand a person or not. But in America, nothing is more American. Nothing is more quintessentially who we are than violence against people we disagree with, and then having a lack of empathy when we don't relate to them, when we don't like them, when they don't look like us. I don't know how you can be a Christian nation and call yourself a Christian nation and extol the virtues of Christianity, but only be empathic when they look like you. That's not Christianity. That's not humanity. That's tribalism.
Critics flooded social media accusing 50 Cent of being heartless and insensitive, claiming his post crossed the line into celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. Comment sections erupted with demands to cancel him and even direct threats, with some writing disturbing messages like, "Hope you are next." Under this intense backlash, the post disappeared within hours. Yet not everyone condemned his reaction. Supporters countered by pointing out that Charlie Kirk built a public persona around minimizing the suffering of marginalized communities, spreading racially charged conspiracy theories, and mocking victims of police brutality. For them, it was inconsistent to expect sympathy for someone who gave none. One viral comment said, "No sympathy for someone who would call me every slur in the book," while another highlighted the hypocrisy of ignoring parents who lost children in school shootings.
I can't have empathy for someone like Charlie Kirk. First of all, Charlie Kirk don't believe in empathy. He said it's a bad thing. He said it's some new age made up shit. He also said people got to be sacrificed in order to protect guns. If he was saying that while fighting for reparations, I may have a little bit of empathy. But this white on white violence, he died? Damn, B. Life comes at you fast. I can't have empathy for someone like Charlie Kirk because I cannot be in his shoes. I have no frame of reference for that. I have no cognizance for that. There literally is nothing about his existence that I can relate to.
Into this already volatile mix stepped D.L. Hughley, who took a more direct and unapologetic approach, signaling that this controversy had only begun to grow larger and more intense. D.L. Hughley escalated the discussion by first sharing a TikTok video highlighting the irony of Charlie Kirk's public statements. The clip replayed Kirk's own remarks, claiming that having occasional shooting victims was a price worth paying to keep firearms rights intact. This direct quote, "UN deaths are worth it," underscored the controversy. Hughley then posted a video of Speaker of the House Mike Johnson calling for prayers for Charlie Kirk and his family. In his caption, Hughley questioned why the same level of public mourning and ceremony had not been extended to victims of mass shootings, or to Congresswoman Hortman and her husband Mark, who were also killed. When news broke that Trump ordered U.S. flags flown at half-mast for Kirk, Hughley criticized the move, noting that flags had not been lowered for numerous victims, including children. He concluded by calling out the inconsistency of Kirk and his supporters, dismissing empathy as weakness, yet demanding it now. This sequence of posts amplified the debate and deepened the scrutiny of political double standards surrounding tragedy and public grief. D.L. Hughley expanded his critique by posting a compilation titled "Hate and Bigotry: Charlie Kirk's Real Legacy." This video highlighted controversial statements from Kirk, including his denial that George Floyd was killed by a police officer and his support for Derek Chauvin's release. Hughley also referenced a theory circulating online suggesting Kirk may have been targeted by the very forces he once defended. In a follow-up post, Hughley reminded viewers that when Trump was attacked, blame was quickly placed on the radical left, only for the suspect to emerge from his own side. In his caption, he emphasized the point with a saying about 3 fingers pointing back at the accuser. Hughley clarified he was not endorsing violence, but analyzing how racial and political optics shape public responses. This approach triggered backlash from Kirk's supporters, who accused him of making excuses for the shooter, while others supported him, arguing the criticism highlighted double standards. The controversy then shifted to Amanda Seales, who faced similar attacks after stating during an Instagram live session that she could not summon empathy for Charlie Kirk, pointing out that Kirk himself rejected empathy as a concept. This wave of reactions further fueled online tensions, drawing in public debate about race, violence, and media narratives. Amanda Seales clarified during her live discussion that she could not express empathy toward Charlie Kirk, explaining there was nothing about his public actions or worldview she could connect with. This statement ignited an intense backlash online, with critics from multiple backgrounds launching personal attacks against her, including calls for deportation and accusations of disloyalty. Social platforms, particularly X, became a battleground filled with insults and slurs. Despite this hostility, Amanda received strong support from many commentators who emphasized that her remarks were not celebrations of death, but a refusal to offer false sympathy. Supporters pointed to Kirk's long record of racially charged rhetoric, conspiracy theories, and his public rejection of empathy as a value. One widely shared comment noted that nowhere in her statement did she promote hate or endorse violence. Instead, she highlighted how the demand for selective empathy exposes double standards. Other defenders stressed that tragedy does not erase harm, and people are not required to mourn public figures who propagated divisive or harmful ideologies. This clash revealed a deeper divide over how public reactions to high-profile deaths are interpreted, especially when race and politics are involved, further fueling a nationwide conversation about accountability and authenticity in public mourning. Many commenters echoed the sentiment that refusing to mourn does not equal hatred, with one post stating firmly, "I will not celebrate his death, but I will not mourn either." Another viral comment praised Amanda as too real, comparing her to past outspoken leaders and noting how media narratives often vilify those who speak bluntly. However, attention quickly shifted to Dr. Umar Johnson. Many anticipated he would respond like Amanda Seales, but instead, he issued a cautionary message urging restraint within the Black community. Dr. Umar argued that the jokes and memes surrounding Charlie Kirk's assassination had crossed a moral line and risked undermining broader struggles for justice. In a detailed Instagram statement, he acknowledged Kirk's anti-Black rhetoric, but maintained that celebrating the loss of life, without direct harm to the Black community, was unacceptable. He emphasized that political assassinations have historically targeted Black leaders and warned against normalizing public rejoicing over violence. This response sparked a fresh wave of debate over whether such restraint was an act of integrity or a sign of misplaced sympathy, and whether public reactions to controversial figures revealed deeper fractures in how communities process collective trauma. As the debate spiraled online, major news outlets and social media platforms began picking up the story, amplifying every post, reaction, and screenshot. This escalation transformed individual opinions into a national flashpoint, with hashtags about Charlie Kirk trending alongside discussions about empathy, hypocrisy, and political violence. Analysts noted how quickly the narrative shifted from a single assassination to a full-blown cultural clash, with opposing sides using the moment to reinforce their existing beliefs. Community leaders and activists expressed concern that this cycle of outrage feeds polarization and distracts from meaningful dialogue on gun violence, political extremism, and systemic inequality. The events also underscored the power of celebrity influence, as comments from figures like 50 Cent, Amanda Seales, and Dr. Umar became reference points for millions online. With each post and live stream, the stakes rose higher, proving how the digital age can magnify tensions and weaponize narratives far beyond their original context. Dr. Umar's closing words underscored his belief that while mourning is optional, celebrating any unloving crosses a line. He stressed that political assassinations have historically targeted Black leaders and warned communities to stop laughing at the misfortunes of others and instead prepare for turbulent times ahead. Yet his comments unleashed a fierce backlash. Critics accused him of moralizing, pointing out that nobody was celebrating but simply refusing to mourn. Others lashed out, saying his caution was misplaced and that no other group would extend the same grace. As the online debate intensified, it became clear that the assassination had succeeded in its deeper purpose, sowing division and amplifying outrage across political, racial, and cultural lines. Commentators, public figures, and everyday citizens are now entangled in an emotionally charged conversation about violence, empathy, and double standards. This chaos underscores how easily acts of violence can be weaponized to fracture society even further. If you've been following along and want more deep dives into these events, make sure to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. New analysis and updates are on the way, and you won't want to miss the next breakdown.